This is Sales Chatter. You got Jeff, you got Ryan.
Good morning.
We're going to crush it today. We got a great guest today, so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. We got Lisa back, number one. She's back for the spot, you know.
Always number one, because I'm
I
not
told
on
you,
the
Jeff.
outside looking in.
Exactly. I told you, Jeff. You know, she said October, October, new goals, new me. She's like, you know what? I'm going to get the number one spot again. Good morning to my good friend Rob. Happy to see you here this morning.
Hey, Rob.
You know, Jeff, today is something that I'm really looking forward to. You know, it's we've been having some amazing talks and everything like that. And what better to kind of get somebody on the side that we're trying to talk to, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Like, what do you kind of think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, there's nothing better than hearing it directly from the horse's mouth as to what should be done and what should not be done in order to gain the attention of a prospect, for sure.
100%. So this morning we've got the amazing John Brewer, the director of distribution and logistics at CKE Restaurants. They're basically a private company out of Franklin, Tennessee, and they own, I think it was like over 3,800 different franchise and restaurants across North America itself. And for those like myself in Canada, we wish we had these companies, but they are definitely the owners of Carl's Jr.'s and Hardee's as well. So I want to welcome welcome John this morning. This morning on Sales Chatter. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Morning, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in for a Tuesday, man.
There you go. That's all you can do, right?
That's it.
That's awesome. So, I think everybody was kind of get into this, chopping this bit, looking at this episode. John, how's things been going on in your world? You're kind of seeing like, hey, you're gearing up for the rest of the end of the year. I know that you got different things kind of going on, but we always kind of see it's like, what is it? Unorganized chaos, right? So how's kind of been everything on your side?
That's a daily.
We're right there with everybody else. I mean, we're not immune to the factors out there. I mean, obviously, inflation, fuel, the crisis over in Europe impacting us, and now we're into the heart of hurricane season. So we were dealing with Hurricane Ian over the weekend. Luckily, very minor damage to our restaurants, as well as nobody got hurt. So that's awesome.
That's good.
And then as of yesterday, all our restaurants were back online with the exception of one. So we're having to deal with that season. It's something I deal with every year, but overall, everybody's just kind of in a holding pattern from what I can see. And there's a lot of things out there that can impact the supply chains, regardless of what you do. But everything's just kind of sitting kind of at a standstill. It's kind of surreal, if you will.
How do you plan for disruptions, John? You know, when you have restaurants that are in, pretty much a war zone and they're closing down, they have inventory that gets destroyed, let's just say, water damage, whatever. How do you respond to something like that with all your 38 restaurants out there? I don't know how many you have down in the Florida area, but I'm just curious.
We have a few things. Number one, we have a great distribution partner. They've been working with us on the Hardee's side for over 35 years. This is not their first rodeo when it comes to hurricanes. They have a pretty good process. We also have a weather alert type software package called Early Alert. It really helps us out. It tells us, which of our restaurants are in the path of the storm and possibly impacted, and it goes coast to coast. So they'll notify us, of wildfires in the West Coast or snow in the Rockies or whatever, and it allows us to have that visibility and to be able to work. And then also internally, we built kind of a disaster relief team with multiple departments, and we'll have a cadence of daily calls, and we'll give updates from every respective department so that we're all working together as a team and passing information back and forth. So we really, over the last 5 years, we've really kind of fine-tuned it, and this past weekend it worked like a champ. So it's great.
So what do you do like when you have an impending storm that's going to hit your area where your restaurant is? Do you pull inventory out of there to try to save it? What's the process on something like that?
It really depends. Sometimes restaurants will take food to other restaurants, to keep it in the coolers and the freezers. We try to, obviously if the power goes out for an extended period of time, we have to discard all that food. And
Sure.
then we have to resupply very quickly so that we're able to serve our customers as soon as that store comes back online. So it's, if it's just one day or so, we keep the coolers shut and the food is okay. But we also, we're very cognizant of food safety and security. That is one of our mantras, and we will discard the food if it's unsafe. We will not feed it to our customers.
So you're pretty much on JIT when those things happen, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep. That's good to know. And usually, what kind of time frame do you have on something like that? Like when you know that a storm's going to hit directly one of your restaurants, and you do move your inventory. How much time in advance do you do that kind of move to get them to the right coolers to save that food?
It really depends. The biggest challenge we have is waiting for that storm to hit landfall because you don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
If there's something once that thing hits landfall and we have a better idea of where it's going to be, then we have some time. Depending on what it is and how fast it's moving. Ian was moving really slow. It hit real hard, but it was moving across the states real slow. So we typically don't move a lot of food. We typically try to wait it out, and then, like I said, if we get to the point that food's no longer safe, then we pitch it and resupply.
Awesome.
It's great to mention here. And Lisa actually kind of brings up a question here for you, John. Is, hey, are you expediting more shipments during these times? So I would say maybe like even like prior to Ian or anything like that, like maybe like during for the rest of the quarter, I assume.
We expedite in these storm type situations, these natural disasters when necessary. Right around the beginning of COVID, when they really disrupted the supply chain, and a lot of manufacturers were having trouble not only getting staff to produce products, but also getting trucks to move them to our distribution centers. We would have to expedite a lot of product because basically the route trucks would leave and they had to leave on time. And if those items weren't in the facility at the time the train left the station, then we were in an expedited position. We kind of went upstream, did some proactive measures with our suppliers and with our distributors, and we were able to minimize that expedited service. We still use it on occasion when we need to, because obviously we don't want to be out of any products for our customers. We want to serve them, the best burgers and fries out there, and you got to have them in the house if you want to sell them.
So on those, because you probably or they.
Just did he freeze there? I think it's freezing a bit here. Yeah, he froze a little bit here. I'm always going to come back, but one thing that I've always been a big fan that you've actually kind of helped me with during everything that's kind of been going on, like COVID and everything like that, is not focusing on, like, let's say like the burgers and fries, like the main things that you would think a company would have, but things like let's say like ketchup packets, the mustard packets, napkins, straws, and things like that. Those were where the supply disruptions were happening. Like even I go to McDonald's the other day, like they still are starting to keep up. Like only one sweet and sour sauce for your nuggets or something like that. How have you kind of seen those I want to say those stock replenish itself? Has it kind of got back to normal where you guys are not having disruptions, or you're kind of seeing that kind of being felt as a ripple effect?
We're not seeing what we were seeing right at the beginning of COVID. It's obviously diminished dramatically. We do have a few areas where it's kind of chronic. The supplier hasn't fully gotten back online; they're still struggling. But we have also diversified our supplier base so that we're able to bring in multiple sources. If one happens to go down, we're able to move to another one. We also work with our distributors, and if they have like a stock item that's non-proprietary, then because they're doing both broadline business and systems business, we'll look at their stock items, and if it meets our stringent specifications, then we'll just sub that in as well. So. Again, just trying to think outside that box and use all the resources you have at your fingertips to minimize those situations like ketchup packets and straws and so on.
Yeah, John, getting back to that, when you, I'm just going to take an educated guess on this. Since your restaurants, they pretty much don't have a warehouse, in them, and basically your trailers are rolling warehouse. Do you have set schedules and times that you run your routes where no matter if you have a certain amount of inventory or not, those routes are dispatched on a daily basis? Like you have your interim orders, like a LTL type, and then you have a stock order where you hit multiple restaurants, like a milk run, sort of speaking?
Yes, all of our runs are milk runs, and they run on a set schedule. We have delivery windows set at every restaurant so that they have to plan their labor to be there to
Yep.
put the food away, and we make sure we have a 2-hour delivery window that they're fully aware of, and they schedule accordingly. So yeah.
Gotcha. And they roll out multiple times a week, right? Pretty much.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say half of our network gets twice a week deliveries, and half of our network gets once a week deliveries.
So we kind of hear
Awesome.
like even my like young days when I worked at McDonald's, I remember like we'd be waiting for the Martin Brower trucks, right? And they'd be coming like once a week, and we didn't want to be on the Brower shift. That means that you got to be in the freezer and you got to be in the dry section as well. But I know everyone kind of is like tuned in this morning. They kind of know like definitely your shipper. I'll just flat out ask you, and it's a pretty broad question, but what makes a good carrier or even a broker on your end? What are the kind of things that not necessarily that you look for, but things that you kind of expect with your existing partners that you kind of have?
Right, and Jeff pretty much knows all my answers, so but I'll be happy to share them again. He understands my frustration. I'm looking for transparency. I'm looking for integrity. I want somebody who's going to be proactive. We all know this is supply chain. We all know issues happen, challenges happen out there every day, and I've had in the past some carriers that didn't have a problem bringing me their issues, but didn't bring any solutions.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, guys, we're a partnership. We got to work together, and I'm working on my side. You need to work on your side and bring me a solution. And if it works, we'll run with it. Also, you need to tell me there's a problem before my customers tell me there's a problem, because I want to be proactive with my customers, just like everybody else does, and say, hey, yeah, we had an issue. The truck went down, but we're repowering it and we're going to get it to you. We're looking at a slight delay, but you'll still get it today, and give them that information so that they can plan accordingly, because nobody wants surprises. Especially in supply chain. You've got so many people depending on the next, the leg ahead of them to do their job. So if there's any kind of ripple in the pond or any wave out there, you need to let them know. And like I said, the carriers who let me know if there's an issue and bring me a solution that they're already working on, those are the ones that are the best.
Yep. And definitely collaboration, because, well, John, how I work, it's a two-way street. Issues do happen on the logistics internal operations. And if something came up, I would bet my house on it that you would reach out to a carrier and saying, hey, listen, got a little bit of problem here. It's going to be a delay. Just want to give you a heads up that when you do get here, you might be here a little longer than what's expected, because that's how you build long-term business relationships, right, John? It's a two-way street. And, you have just as many problems as the carriers, conversing, collaborating, talking day to day or weekly, just updates, what's new, what's happening is so important in the long-term business relationship. And I keep on preaching that all the time. And that's how I try to help out other brokers that are out there. Not to say that I'm expert, because I am not a sales guy. I say it over and over again. I always look at the inside out rather than the outside in, because I understand logistics. And so that's the way that I try to help out, people that are entering the field, to try to understand, what happens on John's side of the business, and I tell everybody that, go visit a DC, don't go visit John. He's too busy, but go into a warehouse and understand the mechanisms. You're not going to learn it overnight, because it's just not going to happen, but it gives you a better perspective. If you want, go for a ride in the truck too.
Absolutely. I was mentioning to somebody earlier this week on LinkedIn that my first job was working as a short haul dispatcher for MS Carriers in Memphis, Tennessee. And they had a liberal rider program, and I would ride out with my drivers, and I'd help them unload the trucks. I would do everything just to get the experience, and of course that garnered their respect. But at least I knew what they were dealing on the other side of that phone, and it really it's an experience I didn't think much of when I was doing it. But when I got to the shipping side of the house and sat across the table from the carriers, and I could understand what they were going through and work with them on a win-win, if you will.
Win-win-win.
Yeah. So it was worth its weight in gold. What I've seen, and this is just, I don't do my business this way, Jeff, and you know that, but I see a lot of shippers out there who are obviously inefficient as well and have their own challenges, and they're not really willing to do anything about it. And it's costing the carrier money. And of course, the carrier has to raise the rates. And I'm like, as a shipper, I've got levers and buttons behind the walls that I can fix and get it right and reduce your cost. And of course, that helps my bottom line. It helps your bottom line. And again, to Jeff's point, win-win-win. And it is a partnership. And the carriers, I expect them to meet me halfway, but I expect from myself to meet them halfway. And if there's things at my facilities that are not operating the way they should, then I need to try to improve those with that carrier as well, because it is a partnership. And you both have to work on it. It's hard.
It is, and that's what's crucial about having carrier roundtables with your service provider, where everybody basically sits down and you talk about the operations. It's not meant to talk about accessorial charges and the rates and everything, but it's trying to get everybody on the same page, especially if you have a huge operation. It's very beneficial because you're sitting down and carriers are talking about their issues, and one learns from the other. Then they learn more about the shipper and the problems that they're having. And then the end result is that you're going to decrease your cost just from a conversation. Even if it's like a WebEx, or you're able to go and see, as an example, John. Don't bother him though; he's too busy. To get things done. Don't be afraid to say no. Good working relationship is an honest one, and it's all backed by integrity. And if you have to learn to agree to disagree, that's what really good relationships are built on. And once you have that trust, things start working like magic. They will, and they'll work with you. You'll become a preferred carrier. They will become a preferred shipper, and you'll last a long time. But when you don't discuss these pertinent issues and problems on both sides of the fence, you are going to run into problems in the short term, not the long term, but in the short term. You must identify them coming out of the gate.
Absolutely. And in my case, a lot of times they're always bigger shippers out there, right? And typically the 800-pound gorilla is the one who gets the capacity. But to your point, if you have these relationships and if you treat it just like we've been discussing, you will find that carriers will come and work for you just because you're easier to deal with than the 800-pound gorilla. So you can secure capacity too. And then also, this is a pay it forward business in so many respects. I've had carriers come to me and say, hey, I'm trying to get a driver home. He lives here. Do you have a load? And I'll give him the load. And vice versa. My ox is in the ditch. I call him up and say, hey, man, anything you can do for me, I'd deeply appreciate it. So it's give and take, but you need to pay it forward. You need to have those markers kind of put out there so that because your ox is going to get in the ditch from time to time, it's inevitable. The odds are against you. So you need to help your partners out so that when the time comes, they come help you out.
Yeah, it's a give and take kind of thing. And Lisa kind of brings up a question here that I would imagine that you have very long-term relationships with your transport providers. So when you're approached by new people, do you give them opportunity? I know we're talking a little bit offline about this, about being pitch slapped, but in terms of things like that. But what are your kind of thoughts on that, John, in terms of, hey, new people?
It's a great question.
It's just like Jeff said, this is a relational business. I will go to my grave saying this is a relational business. And it's how you approach people. I do give carriers opportunities. I give new carriers opportunities, but I want to establish the relationship with them first
Yeah.
and understand what type of individual they are, because I want to know what their character is. Because if their character is good, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, if they're honest, if they're open, if they're transparent, then yeah, it's worth a shot. Because at the end of the day, my reputation is on the line.
Yes.
My company, regardless of who I work for, my company has hired me to do a job, and that job is to service our end customers. And if I pick up a fly-by-night carrier, or I pick up a carrier who just pitch slaps people and they drop the ball, that's a reflection on me. And the last thing in the world I want is my leadership doubting my ability to take care of our customers.
Yeah.
So I built this relationship over a lot of years, and I didn't do it just picking the fly-by-night guy or the cheapest guy for that matter.
Right.
So,
right.
So just so people are not watching, I'm sorry, people are watching right now and they don't understand what a pitch slap is. Can you just kind of go into what exactly a pitch slap is? I know it. I'm not gonna
I'm
lie.
going to enjoy this one.
I've been guilty of doing it early in my career. So let's just hear from hear from you, John. What is a
Hear
pitch
from
slap?
the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
It's a slang term that's evolved. I didn't create it, but I like it. Basically, you ask for business before you ever get to know the person, and it can be on any medium. One of my all-time favorites is when they send you a LinkedIn invite and the pitch is right there in the invite. They don't know you, they don't know anything about your business. They probably haven't done a lot of homework. To Jeff's point, me and him are big homework guys because it was drilled into us as in our elementary and high school days and college days. It's really lazy, to be honest with you. It's just I'm just doing this to check a box, and hoping. We also say spray and pray, where they'll throw out a lot of emails and hope that somebody asked them for a load. So it's you got to do your homework. To Jeff's point, I'm 100% believing in that. With all the social media out there, it isn't hard to figure out what somebody does for a living or what their company does, or you can even determine a little bit about their personality just by what they're posting out on social media. You'll probably notice from me that I don't take myself very seriously on social media. So
no,
wait, what? No,
seriously,
I do a little uptight there.
So there's little things, and it's I tell people, because I have younger kids. I call them kids again. That's what happens when you get old. You call everybody kids. They'll reach out to me, and it's how you approach me. Have some humility, have some respect. My time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable. And if you're trying to learn the business, send me a DM saying, "Hey, look, man, I'm brand new. I've been in this industry 1 or 2 years. I really just want to get good at what I'm doing. Would you have a few minutes to talk to me and kind of give me your perspective?" Something like that. I'm wide open to education. I'm 100%. I'm willing to give back. I was lucky enough in my career to have 2 mentors. I'm mentor to a few people out here. I enjoy it. It's part of my, on the back half of my career, it's something that I do. And as we mentioned before the show, if I can help somebody with their cold calls to make a better cold call, then I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And John, to get back to, you're talking about not just the respect, but how you come across to others, your bosses. Are you capable, or are you experienced? It goes both ways. Not just your reputation yourself is on the line, but how about the reputation of the individual that's reaching out to you, right? When you think about that, if you're good at what you do and you do your background checks, you get your knowledge bank full about that prospect and you do a good job, there's a high likelihood that John may say something to other shippers because, look, he's part of the Tennessee Traffic Club. He's going to be engaging with other people that are there, and they're going to, hey, you know what? I talked to this guy, Ryan Muhammad, man. What a great guy. He didn't come across as a typical sales guy. He didn't talk about freight. He wanted to know more about my business and my background. And we were congruent. That's the kind of things that you want in a relationship. it's not just about your reputation, John, but it's the reputation of the people that are calling you. So do your homework, do your background checks. If you knock it out of the park, you're not going to have to work that hard, because John is going to tell one person, that person's going to do it. I hardly ever make calls. It's all homegrown, because I try to knock it out of the park. And then I got one of my ex-bosses is working for me now. That's great, right? And now another ex-boss opened up a door, and he'll say something good about me to another person, and that's how my business is growing. It's the reputation. You don't have to work hard. You have to work smart, but do your homework, man. Really, just do your homework.
Absolutely. I refer brokers and carriers all the time. Shippers will say, "Hey, I've got a pain point here. Can you help me out?" I'll say, "Yep." And I've got a guy that his company started out handling beer, wine, and spirits, and somebody was looking to transport alcohol. I hooked him up. I said, "This guy is the guy." I mean, they literally built the company on handling beer, wine, and spirits. He's going to be able to take care of you. And I gladly referred him. And to your point, word of mouth spreads. It can spread good or it can spread bad.
Really bad.
It's going to spread. So the other thing, and this is another lazy thing, circling back to pitch slapping for a minute. When people reach out to me and they say, "Well, what are your problem lanes?" I'm like, "Well, you want me to do all the work for you?" I mean, you gotta have some compassion. I like to think, I worry about a lot of things. Okay. In my job, in my business, we talked about hurricanes. I worry about hurricane season, worry about inflation, and some of these things will keep you up at night, And so one of the things I told the kids that I was mentoring over in Knoxville that we were talking about earlier before the show is, why don't you ask him what keeps him up at night? What are you worried about? And start there and see if there's a fit with your organization or your company that can maybe make that go away.
Yeah.
And then if you take something off his plate and he or she doesn't have to worry about that anymore, that is going to enamor them to you like nobody's business, because they know that not only are they you're looking out for your own company as a carrier broker, you're also looking out for your customers and trying to make their lives easier as well.
100%. And then I'm a big believer in what kind of helped me is that you kind of find out what the experience, like I believe that I don't like move freight, I don't ship freight, I sell experiences, right? Like, so for at CKE, the experience, if I was like gonna approach you, is like the experience that I want to give is like somebody coming into your store for the first time and having the best burger and the best fries and having the best experience of that. It's not about the shipping, it's not about anything else. But even when you do look at different industries, and you mentioned the carrier about the alcohol, that's where Jeff and I kind of like always talk about, find your niche, find something that you can be really good in and just maximize it. Like our industry, I say this all the time, our industry is a $800 billion industry. We can all eat, so we don't all have to go, like you said, the 800-pound gorilla is like, hey, that's fine and dandy, but find your niche and the universe will find its way to repay you in good ways.
Well, and touching on something Jeff mentioned earlier, my carrier partners, my broker partners, if there's a lane that I have that there is not their niche, they can tell me no, and I tell them flat out. I said, I would rather you tell me no than take it and screw it up, and that doesn't impact their level of business with me as we move down the road. I mean, I may be at a different company and it's a better fit. I may, I've got like my supply chain right now. Just because you don't want to go to Dallas doesn't mean you don't want to go to Florida. And that'll come up as well. So, and I tell them, I said, if you turn me down, that's not going to impact me offering you another opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And you know what, I think as like a broker too, like we kind of get stuck on that, like, hey, they gave us this opportunity and like we're gonna say no, but it works out better for you. Like Jeff can attain to that, just know what you're doing, like you don't want to kind of go into something, a lane that you can't service, and then you screw up, and then you got to call John at like 5 o'clock, 4:59 on a Friday, saying that, hey, that truck broke down, so we've all been there and done that.
A lot of sales reps, and I'll go back several years ago, used to come in and they used to say, oh, you got a lane going to the Upper Peninsula in Wisconsin? Oh, we'll take that. Oh, really? You want to take that? What's your OR on that? Oh, it's about 114. So you say you're complementing the account. How is that possible when you have an operating ratio of 114? You're basically now taking the OR on the good stuff, and now you're raising that because you're taking a bad lane. No, I'm not going to give you that. If I'm good at what I do, I'm going to find that niche carrier to do that specific lane because it's going to benefit me more than giving it to you to do, to complement, if you want to call that, the account. Don't do that kind of stuff. And if you're a good transportation guy, transportation procurement guy, don't give it to them. You think it's just because it's control. It's the ease of doing business. No, it's costing you money. No matter which way you look at it, it will cost you money. So, it has to be both ways. One, on the operations side, no, don't even offer that to your sales guy. And then as a sales guy, don't even offer to take it. Walk away from that because it destroys the main reason why you're doing business with that company. It will destroy it because there's a high probability, like John said, you're going to fail in that lane. And then, there's a really good saying, and John knows this too, you're only as good as the last shipment that you handle. You could do 1 billion shipments and knock it out of the park. You have that one. Guess which one they're going to remember?
That one.
That's it. And, and that's why you have to be on top of your game. And you have to, every day is a new day with the same customer. You treat it as such. You don't say, oh, no worries. I've been doing business with them for about 3 years. It's going to work like clockwork. No, wrong. You have to have your finger on the pulse with that customer and work it every single day like they just came on board and they're a new customer. That's the way you handle a customer.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing. I mean, we're out there every day earning our customers' business. So I expect my partners to do the same.
Only way to do it, John.
Yeah, that's the best way. So, John, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a
Appreciate
pleasure.
you guys having me.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Thanks, John.
To get that
Appreciate it.
insight, and I know a lot of people will definitely get value from this. Thanks everybody for watching. Leave your comments and your questions. We will be live again we'll hit the replay again at 12 p.m. Eastern time and 3 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Tomorrow's
and
data
John, one thing. Listen, if you get slammed by emails and phone calls, I had absolutely nothing to do with it.
No, it was all Jeff. Jeff made a post this morning saying, "Hey, hit up John for
nothing, brother."
But if you get pitch slapped, let us. You know what? If you get pitch slapped, send us the actual message, and we'll put it in our video tomorroore and shake it.
Yeah, and then John will go, "I'll never do that podcast again."
Yeah, exactly. From there. So, like we said, well, thank everybody. It's been a pleasure. Data Day tomorrow with Dean. John, I know you mentioned off the air that there's a little bit of a mixer going on tonight. You want to give a little bit of info on that?
That's right.
Sure. Yeah. I'm part of the Nashville Transportation Club. Our primary focus is to provide scholarships to supply chain students in the local area, and we raise money by doing that. Tonight's thing is a happy hour here in Nashville. It's a networking session. It's very non-salesy. It's just people building those relationships that we've been talking about through this whole show. And it's really a fun time, and we'll have a good time. I think we're doing movie trivia tonight too, which is also going to be a hoot. And just looking forward to seeing everybody out there and building those relationships and starting new ones.
Yeah, and if you can't find John, just look for him. He'll be at the bar.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. Yeah.
Well, it is happy hour, We'll change happy hour to happy night. So there we go.
You have to have a happy hour in logistics, no matter which way you look at it.
Absolutely.
All right, gents, always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and everybody go crush yourselves.
Have a great day, guys.
Centurion Trucking. Our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career today.